Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because we do have a bonus pair in store. As always, we'll go through my trade for the week first, which was on Euro USD. We'll recap that, take a look at the DXY, and then we'll go through the analysis shortly afterwards. If there is a particular pair you do want to see my analysis to, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. I had one position. I actually had one position last week for Euro USD, which I was hanging over the weekend, but I re-entered it because price lost momentum. And I said last weekend that if the momentum does die out, I will look to exit early. So the original entry for the long position was here, stops below the low, and then I did exit a little bit early around here after this strong candle closure. Then I re-entered after price gave me another entry signal and the bullish momentum kicked back in again. And I re-entered on that bullish candle there. Stop loss in a similar place underneath that low. And then we did see some nice upside this week for Euro USD. However, after NFP, everything changed. Did see some nice momentum to the upside, but that quickly turned around. Dollar starting to look strong again, and Euro USD, of course, is pushing in the opposite direction. I did manage to trail my stops into a bit of profit, so I was trailed out just as the weekly candle did close for the week there. So I am out of this position for a small win. Momentum was looking good, but it just didn't sustain, and with dollar being strong, price wasn't gonna push continuously in my direction. I kind of wasn't expecting price to go too far because I'm still looking at this trade here as just the pullback of this big move here. So that's why I was a bit aggressive with my trading stops. I was prepared to exit early because the momentum wasn't going in my direction. I don't want to be sitting in this trade because we've had such a big drop. So the move I'm looking to take is kind of the relief of that move, looking potentially for price to continue back down. I did mark out a couple levels here where we could get to. My target was up at this high where I'd completely pull the trade and take the profits. Didn't quite get there, unfortunately. Rejected that high, and now we're looking pretty bearish. So could be a lot more downside into next week. And take a look at the DXY there as well, looking pretty bullish. So came into a big level. This is the same level I was talking about last week, where I said dollar might retrace. As you can see, price is really corrective, pushing to the upside. We did manage to break out that channel, which was a good sign, but the key thing is we failed to break through that support level. The breakout was 50-50, and then we had the big wick to the downside, which was a big obvious rejection of that area, and now we're looking pretty bullish. So dollar for next week, I do think we'll see a bit more upside back into the high, and depending whether we break through that or not. If we don't, we'll probably get another move back down again. If not, we'll probably break out and see a bigger move to the upside. I have marked out a second area where I do think we can see some bearish pressure step back into the market around the 105,500 level. So that's what I'm looking for price to get to if we don't hold this 104,500 level, which is looking likely at this moment in time. I'm not going to rule it out just yet because it's not breaking through and anything can happen. Could definitely see price react with that high and pull back down again. But it'll be interesting to see, especially with major news happening next week. But I will keep a close eye on 104,500 because it's either make or break for that area. See if we're going to break through it or we're going to hold on to that level, and that will kind of dictate my bias for the next week or so for the USD. So that's kind of what I'm looking at regarding dollar. Obviously, euro is the first pair we look at. So let's head right back over there. We can get rid of this now since that trade has been said and done with. So yeah, with euro USD, the fact is it looks like dollar's probably going to keep pushing up next week. Of course, we'll see what happens at that level of resistance, but I'm still looking to see what we can do at this low because it is a very sturdy low. A lot of confidence there. We've got these high lows, 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 there as well. So there is definitely an area of confidence which the market keeps respecting along with that support level. So if we do get there again next week, I will look for some more buying opportunities depending how price looks, depending what dollar gives us as well. If price was to break through, then I'll scrap that bias and start to look for some more downside. And we've got these lows here is the lows that I will target essentially. If price does break out that trend line, these are the lows I'm expecting price to make its way towards. So I've got targets to the upside, back to those areas. I've got targets to the downside. It just really depends what dollar wants to do next week. And the fact is we've got major news. So I'm expecting a lot of volatility, and maybe it might be a week which, being a bit cautious, might be the smarter move. Wait for price to pick its direction, pick its trend, and then we can look to follow it. But for now, this is still a nice area for buyers for me. So that's why I'm going to keep an eye out for some opportunities next week. If we do go and break through, like I said, I will rethink things and possibly look to switch that bias around if the market is not holding on to it, and to start to discuss some selling opportunities if that does come around. But at the moment, still pretty bullish as we come back into that level, see how we react around 1.078400, and then we can look at some opportunities. But that will be the plan going into next week for Euro USD. Okay, so next up we got USD JPY. So this market, a bit of a mixed week. If you go in the weekly time frame, you can see literally just the doji wicks up and down. The key thing with dollar yen is where we're trading. It's a massive level of resistance, which looks like we're trading above it. Not really convinced by the candlestick formations here, whether it's a convincing break or just a half-hearted, and price might close back inside that same level. But it looks like price is breaking above it. So if I'm going to look to short dollar yen, because again the market's pretty stretched, so I'm not really interested in buying it, at least until we have a bigger pullback. I do like the shorts if we were to break back underneath this ascending channel and break back underneath that same level, and then possibly look for some retests and some lower highs. That to me looks like a nice play, kind of breaking two birds with one stone. Hitting two birds with one stone, I think the saying is, which is breaking out that channel, which is still pretty consistent with these higher lows. It looks like price is forming one at the moment, and we could see price just continue. In fact, if we are going to continue high and see convincing price action, then I'll be a lot more confident about the buys and looking for some pullbacks to continue that bias, rather than following this very corrective market, which yes might push back to the high there, but still not very convinced. I wouldn't be surprised late in the week we see a big move down. So I'm liking the shorts for dollar yen. Really corrective price action, so the chances are we do see some downside at some point, but the key thing is breaking through those confluences, the trend line, the ascending channel, and breaking through that level of support as well. And then the shorts will look a lot better. In terms of targets, I'll be looking at these swing points here, that swing low, this swing low, even the swing low down here, depending how far you want to take it. There's a lot of room for us to fall into, potentially the low there, but we'll leave that for another day. So yeah, dollar yen shorts look good. Looking for price to break lower. If we just respect this and push up, I'm not really interested anyway. If we do break through with a lot of force, I think there's some nice shorts to be had around 151.500. Targets 149.5, 148, potentially 146.5, 0.250 as well. But yeah, if we can get that strong break next week, looking at a lot more downside, and now with the plan for dollar yen. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD trading at major resistance. So if I go to the weekly chart, you can see where we are trading at. Massive rejections here in the past. The key thing I have noticed with dollar yen is that not dollar yen, sorry, dollar CAD, is that we have seen a strong close above this price, because we have had significant reactions here, but price has never really managed to get a close above this price in a long time. We've finally seen that. So maybe this is the start of potentially a big breakout, but I'll believe it when I see it, when I start to see big candles there, and then I'll start to talk about maybe following that momentum. But at the moment, it's still a major resistance. So as a swing trader, I cannot be looking to buy at these prices, even if potentially we will break out. I'm only going to be looking for selling opportunities. But at the moment, if I drop to the 4 hour, you can still see we're slowly ascending to the upside. So there is no sell opportunities for me just yet. Similar to what we spoke about dollar yen, want to see a strong break to the downside out of that ascending channel. Confirm to me momentum's here, the sellers are stepping in, and that we're in fact holding on to that level. And then I'll look for some pullbacks, some corrections, and then some shorts, maybe a retest of one of these lows here. And in terms of the targets, I do like the swing point there, the start of that ascending channel. That would be a healthy target. We could go a lot further as well. If you go back to the weekly chart, you can see the rejections we've had from here. So who's to say we don't see something like that? It could be a trade where you leave some positions to run. It would make sense to, but I think if you're just looking for the trade for a week, then I think that's a very suitable target there, or even some of these lows here too look good. So it's up to you how you want to manage that. And the risk reward you're after to take. But in terms of the area we're trading in, this is definitely more seller's territory. So looking for that original reaction, looking for some lower highs to form afterwards, and then we can start to look around 1.381 and 1.375 for some targets. But that is the plan I have for next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so over to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound, we've had lift off really. Price has come back into a massive level of support, and we finally saw a big reaction, which kind of warrants the level we're trading at. As you can see, big level, big level, big level, and we're there again, and a pretty strong reaction as well this week. Although we've kind of retraced half of it before the week did close, but this is an area where a lot of buyers will be sitting at, and I do think we can see a bounce similar to dollar CAD in terms of finding some opportunities for next week. If I drop to the 4 hour, you can see price had that big move and now it's coming straight back down. But it has left behind a nice level here where we had that kind of small consolidation, if you will. Price was fluctuating up and down between these two prices, finally got the breakout, and looks like we could be coming back for the retest. Now, I wouldn't look for anything crazy here for Euro Pound in terms of a continuation back to the high and beyond, even though we're trading at a big level, which could give us that move. I'm not so convinced with this move here. Really strong momentum, great, but then we're seeing really strong momentum back down again. I want to see more corrective behavior to imply that we've had a big impulse, market's correcting itself to continue rather than impulse, which sometimes means a reversal. So I like the buys from 0.835, but it would be a situation where I don't try and sit in that trade too long, or I try to be a bit more aggressive with the management in terms of trading stops or taking partials, because I'm not that convinced. I think a steady target back to that resistance there, 0.842, makes a lot of sense. I think we'll be lucky to get a move there. I would say maybe a half, maybe an intermediate target is kind of, if we continue from there, I'll probably be looking at this area around 0.838, which is kind of like 40% of the way to the upside. So with Euro Pound, I do like the buys, but I would be a bit careful. Definitely going to see how price reacts at 0.834, which is that level. Things look good. I would anticipate some upside and targets around 0.842. Ambitious, but reasonable as well. So it's up to you how you want to manage that, but that's kind of the swing I'm looking for, knowing that, okay, we're trading at a big level. We're seeing some big buying pressure step into the market. So slowly turning that bias to bullish. No real significant breaks of structure yet that imply that we are trending up, but that momentum is definitely a start of it. So buys around 0.834 look good, targets around 0.842, and yeah, expecting more upside next week for Euro Pound. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, I'm still looking a bit more downside ever since we had the break of structure of this low here. I'm looking for price to come a lot further. We've got major support here in the daily around 0.64. I do think price can make a way into that level. We've just broken through that support now, which is going to be flipped as resistance, which would be nice if price was to pull back, retest that, find some opportunities to continue to ride that momentum down. We spoke about dollar in the beginning. Potentially dollar could still see more upside, depends if we break that level, but it does look like dollar in the immediate future probably will see some more upside early next week, so that probably will keep Aussie dollar bearish. If we can see a bit of a pullback, that would be great, because I wouldn't really want to be looking to short at these prices since we've had such a big drop already. The market's a bit stretched, kind of like Euro USD. I want to see that reaction, bit of a pullback, and then some shorts will look a lot better, which is why I'm referring to this level, because if we can see a pullback, test that area, nice confluence, nice place for a stop loss as well, and that just makes a lot more sense for Aussie dollar. You know, targets back at that low, or if you want to be a little bit more braver, aggressive, you got targets down there as well if you really want to stretch the trade, which I do think is pretty reasonable since the market has just been ranging. So I think there's a really good chance we do get back to the low there anyway, as the market just keeps fluctuating between high and low, high and low. So there's a good chance we get there anyway. So I think targeting there looks good, but you definitely want to be managing that trade along the way and not just kind of leave everything floating. Then potentially you run the risk of price turning against you there. But in terms of a nice place for an entry and a stop loss, I'm liking this area 0.662, and I would still be pretty bearish there on Aussie dollar. So that's the plan going to next week for AUD/USD. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So this is NZD CAD in the weekly time frame. We do have this big ascending channel here, which I do think prices like to come back and test the lower end of that channel. There is that possibility for a big breakout and possibly price, push back to the low, so on and so forth. And we'll get to that when we get there. But for now, I still do see a little bit more downside. The only tricky thing is finding the shorts there, because Aussie CAD looks a lot better in terms of the opportunity, in terms of the break and retest and the lower time frames. New Zealand CAD, not as good, but of course they're very similar pairs, so I do expect them to do similar things. but I do think if we can get a break of this 4-hour support here, there could be some nice shorts on the flip. So when price comes back for the retest, we've been pretty consistent with these lower highs here. So essentially looking for the next one. We've got one over there, second over there, third over there roughly, and it'd be nice if we can get a fourth retest in that same level and plot some shorts on some entries, stop loss above the high, and then looking to target that trend line area. I'll probably say in terms of a support level, it lines up pretty well with this low there, so that's kind of where my focus would be, which is around 0.822, which is that low. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at for NZD CAD, slowly rolling over to the downside. Price is still pretty corrective, so I wouldn't want to be engaging in here because it's just very, very choppy. But if you can get a clean break, some momentum, a retest, shorts do look good, and I would expect us to make our way back to that lower end of the channel. Maybe we bounce so we can speak about some buys, or maybe we break out and we speak about some continuations, and we'll probably find out the answer to that next week at some point. But for now, still looking at us getting to that level so we can, find some trades along the way. Hopefully something like this can set up and take some shorts back into 0.822. But that is the plan next week for NZD CAD. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So I like pound NZD. Seen a lot of upside recently. It was a pair I was looking at a lot last week, but unfortunately I missed the opportunity to get into the trade. I was busy the morning of the entry, which set up around here. We'd be in a little bit of profit, so we haven't really gone too far. So I have not lost hope. We potentially could come back for a retest, and then I could hopefully find some entries to get into the trade this time. But essentially it's the same thing as we spoke about last week, seeing the higher highs and higher lows. Overall looking for the next higher low for the next swing to the upside. If I expand to the daily chart, you can see overall the market, actually the weekly chart's probably a little bit better. You can see overall the market has been ascending to the upside with these higher lows, 2, 3, 4, and looking for a push back into that high. We have since broken through some strong levels of resistance and looking to use that as our advantage. As a support level, which is another confluence why I wanted to go along there as well, testing a really nice level there too. So overall, just looking to keep buying it as we keep pushing higher, and I would expect us to push back into that high, hence that would be my target for the trade. So with pound NZD, I'm looking for price to come back, retest it again, and look for some entries at that 2.159 area. If price was to break through, then I would rethink things and probably will have a bigger pullback at that point, maybe closer to the 2.12 area where we've got this trend line dancing around. So potentially could see a bigger move to the downside should we break through that, but for now we're still holding pretty well, and that's still my level of confidence, which is still intact. So looking for buys at that area. Hopefully we get another retest and find some entries there next week, and looking to take it back into the high at 2.18, and potentially the big swing high in the weekly chart around 2.189. But that's the plan going to next week for pound NZD. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen, another yen pair, we're trading at some major resistance on the weekly chart, similar to dollar yen. As you can see, I've drawn some lines of where the market has really been concentrating. We've seen a lot of rejections around this high up there, around 110,500, and this low around 104,500. So we'll be bouncing between those two levels. We're testing the higher end now, and again, potentially price could break through. We could see a big move, or price can hold, and we can see a big move back down. So it's 50-50 at this moment in time. If I drop to the 4 hour, you can see price is still pretty tired. We've been correctly moving up, so I'm not quite sold that we're going to get that big breakout. Hence why I'm kind of having a premature bearish bias with the yen pairs, because they're not ready yet to be sold, but they look like they're getting there. And I'm getting that same situation here with CAD Yen. We had these higher lows, which the market was moving pretty well in. We've kind of broken through that trend line, but again, no break of structure, so it's not a significant break for me, and there's not a lot of momentum in that move there either. So I kind of want to see price make a strong move to the downside, commit underneath 109, which has been some sturdy resistance, and which at the moment is holding a support there as well. So I want price to get that strong break to the downside, and then I can speak about some shorts on some lower highs and probably some sells all the way back down to the lower end of that daily range we just mentioned daily weekly range we just mentioned, back down to that 105, 104, 500 area. So there's a lot of downside for us to potentially fulfill. There's some lows there, probably look at in terms of taking some partials at, but really the play for me for CAD Yen is either the big reaction to the downside or the big breakout, and looking to follow that. At the moment, the big breakout is not looking that likely. Big strong rejection there on the daily chart there too. So if price can keep up that momentum, I do like the lower highs here and some shorts, and we could potentially see a big swing to 105. So that's really what I'm waiting for next week for CAD Yen. Big strong move, and then I'll look to find my pullback shortly afterwards. But there's a lot of potential to the downside if we do see that big break. So that's what I'll keep an eye out on next week. But that's the plan going to next week for CAD Yen. Okay, so next up we got Pound USD. So Pound USD, we're trading at a nice level, an area of confluence. I'm looking at these higher lows, which price has been pretty consistent with. Higher low there, second, third, and potentially a fourth. So there is that potential bounce there for Pound USD, which we kind of saw a little bit on Friday with NFP. Price did come into here heavily on Thursday, and then we did see a bit of a reaction, although it hasn't amounted to much. So it's still a nice place for a long. If we were to get there again and see some more reactions, I think that's a nice place for a buy, but I would be careful because we are still moving in this descending channel and still pretty consistent with these lower highs as well. So the chances are price could probably push back into that channel and have another reaction and push back down again. So in terms of managing the trade, I would be looking at taking profits or securing a stop loss to break even as we do approach that high, because we could roll over. If you do get the breakout, great, you can leave some positions to run and trail stops beyond that, but I would look to manage that trade as we do come into that channel. If we don't get that retest there and price does manage to break through this support level and that trend line as well, I'm looking at some deeper tests around 1.267, 1.26250, where we've got this these high lows, these major high lows, more so on the weekly chart, kind of lining up well with some of these lows on the daily there as well. So there is room for Pound USD to fall if it does break through this and kind of keep up with that descending channel, which we've been in for a while now. So if the market does break to the downside, I can see some sell opportunities just as well as some bullish opportunities at the moment. So it does really depend what we do at this level here next week, whether the market just keeps selling off and keeps seeing lower highs. Then we would be looking at a nice break of structure, a lower high, a retest, and a continuation lower. So it just depends what we do at 1.287 next week. At the moment, still holding as support. So anticipate buys, we'll monitor price action. It depends on dollar as well. It's a big week for USD next week as well, so keep an eye on that. But if we do see a break, there is room to the downside. I'm looking at 1.27 as the first big target for Pound USD on some pullback. So keep an eye on that level, and that will make up my mind in terms of the plan for Pound USD and which way I do see Pound USD going. Okay, so up next we got Pound CAD. So Pound CAD still steadily pushing to the upside. You can see all these high lows on the daily chart. Market's being pretty consistent with them, and we had some nice dips, dip this weekend anyway, and a nice buy opportunity there in the lower time frames, as we had that big push down on Thursday with the pound pairs, and the market found support there with that trend line, another push to the upside. So that was a nice opportunity this week. However, now we're back kind of roughly in the middle of the range, not really seeing many opportunities. If you're looking for some shorts, we're doing a pretty good job at holding onto that resistance. Some sells that look good. Again, it's a little bit more aggressive since you're going against the momentum, going against the trend, but price is really struggling to break that high. So shorts do look okay. They're not really my type of trade, but I can understand people looking to short back at that high. What would be nice for some shorts though is if price does go and get that break of the trend line, break through that support level, and then we can discuss some shorts afterwards. Because at that point it looks like price is reversing. I've spoken many times about the major level above us, which looks like Pound CAD may reverse from on the monthly chart. So as you can see, we're coming back into major resistance here on the left. We're just about testing that level, and I do think there is room for us to push to the downside. So if we do get that big trend line break and price starts to break through some support as well, could really open up the door to some nice shorts. In terms of targets, we could be looking at move back into this area here, a lot of key support in that area, and of course you got a lovely swing low there as well. So it's up to you how far you want to take it, but there is a lot of room to the downside there for Pound CAD. So looking at a retest of 1.786 for some shorts, Again, I can understand some shorts up there, but I'll be waiting for this opportunity myself, and then targets around 1.77 or 1.74 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound yen. So pound yen, I am looking for some downside, same with the other yen pairs. We have broken out of this channel here, connecting these highs and lows. I do think we're going to go for a bit of a pullback for pound yen over the next week or so. I do like the buys from around 193, trying to catch that next higher low possibly. I'm not looking for anything crazy with pound yen, but as we come to this area of confluence, there could be a nice reaction, which is kind of the opportunity which I see as the highest quality, that ticks the most boxes for me. Because with pound yen, I'm not quite convinced that we're coming all the way back to the high we could do, but I would expect a bit of a pullback since we've been so corrective. The market's been very tired with these higher highs and higher lows. So I do think we're going to go for a bit of a pullback, and there could be some shorts. I'm not quite seeing great opportunities for shorts to short it on the way down on that pullback. The yen pairs look a lot better. So for this one, I'm kind of waiting for that move to play out, and then I'll start to discuss some longs around the 193 area and possibly take that back to where we came from, back at that high around 199, possibly higher as well. But we'll speak on that when we get that set up, when it does form. But at the moment, I'm looking for more retracement there for pound yen. Hopefully we can push back down to 193, look at some entries around that area and take some buys. But that's the plan going to next week for pound yen. Okay, so next up we've got gold. So gold I'm still very bullish on. You can see the higher highs and higher lows the market's making. Still a very confident bullish trend here. I'm still looking for the next continuation of that. I was looking for the retest of the high this week, but the market had a really big sell-off. Broke through, is actually looking like it's holding as resistance at the moment. So I do think we've got a bit more downside left to give for gold and a bit more upside in dollar. So that correlation should take us to the downside there. And I do have a nice area of confluence, so I want it to pull back a little bit further as well, because this is a really nice place for a buy. This is an area I was speaking about last time after we create that new structure. I'm looking for a slightly deeper pullback now for gold, and again looking for the same swing. If I expand to the higher time frames, the daily chart, market is still very bullish, so I'm anticipating the market to give us that pullback there. So hopefully we can see a bit more downside for gold. I really like the opportunity here. If we have a big swing, then 268, 2680 is kind of where I'm looking to buy from. There is this level just above it, but there's more confluence below, so I would look for price to break that level as well and take some buys in that area, and then potentially the sky's the limit back to the high, maybe even further as well. I'll be looking trail stops. Gold in this current climate is really bullish, so I want to kind of give it as much room as possible to really push on and possibly catch a really big trade. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on going to next week for gold. Okay, so next up we've got Bitcoin. So Bitcoin I'm still bullish on. Really nice break to the upside. We've broken through the high there. Now we've seen a bit of a downside move, which is good because I'm looking at that as a retracement. Now, if the market is going to be bullish and see a continuation like we did over here, really big move, and if this is just a big kind of correction for the market to go in that next big run, then I want to see that momentum sustain. I don't want to see big bearish candles coming down. I definitely don't want to see price start to break back inside that channel. That'll be a big red flag. So I want to see price either hold this level here, which we're testing now around 69k, or if you decide to have a slightly bigger pullback, I do like this area here, which is when we retested the high of the range there. So those are the two levels that look good. If we were to break through both of them, then I'll kind of rethink things, and maybe Bitcoin might go into a bigger consolidation and things get choppy again. And I'll probably just wait for price to break the high before looking at a bigger move there for Bitcoin. But there's still a lot of momentum in the market. I'm liking the down move coming back into that level. So buys look good around here. Probably wait for Monday for momentum to kick back in, because I don't expect too much to happen for Bitcoin over the weekend. Definitely a big week next week USD wise, so it could be interesting moves next week. But definitely I do like the buys around 70k and around 66, we'll call it. If we were to get back there again, break through both areas, I would definitely back away and probably just treat Bitcoin as a big range and not really look to do too much if we break back inside that range. But for now, still holding those levels, keep an eye for some longs and looking for a push back into the high and potentially a lot further as well. We've spoken about 80k, 90k could see those prices being hit. So yeah, still looking at buys going to next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is silver. So I really like the buys for silver, coming back into a nice area of confluence, retesting this major resistance which we broke from a couple of weeks ago. Really big candle. Now this is the first time we're coming back for the retest. We've got some nice high lows. You can include this one as well. We've got the trendline confluence with those two high lows there, 1, 2, 3, looking for the fourth as we come into that level. If we can see some nice rejection wicks, shift of momentum forming, I will be looking for entries on the 4 hour in that area of confluence, and expecting that next higher low to form, and looking to take silver all the way back to the highs and potentially beyond as well. Now silver in the higher time frame has got a lot of upside potential. I'm looking at the weekly, monthly time frames, and I can see prices slowly picking up momentum. We broke through a major level of resistance not long ago. If I scoot to the monthly time frame, you can see that momentum picking up some more as well. So I do think silver's got a long way to go if it wants to catch up with gold, back to the all-time highs and beyond. So that's why I like it. Of course, I'm not looking to hold a trade all the way to the all-time highs, but I know that if I have a open take profit and just look to trail, I could be onto a really big winner if things go my way. So I'm really liking silver. Hopefully you can find some entries around that 32.5 area and look to trade it back into that swing high next week, as long as we hold that area. If we don't, then silver might go into a more prolonged retracement, bigger correction before maybe pushing up later on. So then I also have to speak a bit more about that and monitor price. But for now, momentum's good. Let's see if we can hold that level and get some continuations next week. But that, guys, does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. If you have enjoyed it, comment down below which pair you're looking at. I'm interested to find out which pair you're looking at next week. But guys, really hope you have a great day, great weekend, and of course I'll catch you all in the new week.